Hey, what's going on, guys? XpertFusion here, and welcome to the Season 3 finale of the Walking Dead Telltale TV adaptation series. Now, before I get into this, I do want to ask a question. I want you guys in the comment section to give me your top 5 favorite episodes so far, including this one. So, after you watch this, tell me top 5 of the entire series so far. I'm just interested to see which ones you guys like the most. That'll kind of help me gauge as to what you guys are most interested in. And also for characters, give me your top 5 favorite characters. It doesn't have to be my own characters. It could be ones that were already in the game itself, but you get the idea. So this episode is titled Warfare. So it begins with getting a nice opening montage showing the walkers in all different places around the mall. There's the walkers in the mall itself hoarding up against the crate, the walkers just roaming around the other portions of the mall, the walkers surrounding some parts of the mall, as well as the mega herd that is in the parking lot of the mall headed for the entrance as they herd up against vehicles and just other blockades around the area. They're just kind of like herding around the place, Luke, Bonnie, and Jordan are trapped inside the public bathroom within the mall as the walkers roam all around outside of it. They try to discuss a plan, and Bonnie says the guts trick is probably their best option. Luke says that shit sounds disgusting, but Bonnie says it'll work well and it's their only way of getting out of here. The others get back into their positions while trying to help each other out with their injuries. Omid is in particular really injured with that bullet wound in his shoulder. He decides to go with Kenny to protect the non-fighters in the clothing store since he needs to kind of be out of the battle because of his injury. Nick, Jane, and Lily make their way through the second floor of the mall looking around for Luke, Jordan, and Bonnie. The mega herd of roughly 1,000 walkers starts slowly slipping in through different doors of the mall, mainly through the food court doors. Nick, Jane, and Lily see them coming and they yell out to warn the others that the walkers are coming. The killers stay in the distance watching the mall from the woods as they keep their vehicles nearby. Calvin says they'll give them a few more minutes and then they'll attack them while they are busy with the walkers. Trip, Vince, Aaron, Shell, and Tavia specifically get on top of the crate and look off into the walkers coming their way. They start dabbing them up close with melee weapons to avoid using ammo. Sandy, Sierra, Richard, Roman, and one red shirt keep an eye out. Kyle is still tied up in the sunglass store as he yells out to Sandy and says that they can use a second hand, and Sandy tells him to stop, but Kyle says he literally saved her damn life. The walkers start to pile up against the crate and even start to get through the sides of it. They start to slip through. Trip uses a machete to chop a few up who get through. Clem and the others in the changing rooms get comfortable as Clem holds up her Glock just to be ready for anyone who comes through. Kenny and Omid get prepared as well, as Omid is kind of nervous, and Kenny says they'll get through this, and Kenny pats him on the back. Omid says Darius was a good friend, and he didn't think that tough guy would ever die, so it kind of makes him think that anyone can die this time around. The killers start coming towards the mall again. There's roughly 10 killers in each helicopter headed for the roof, and another 10 or so headed around back in 3 different trucks. Calvin and Slater are in the trucks. They enter through a back door after killing some walkers and head in through a Dave & Buster's restaurant. The 2 helicopters land on the roof as Tavia yells out that the killers are here. Everyone gets into stores and they stay in cover. Stu leads those in the helicopter as he has everyone lined up over the broken glass ceiling and has them all aim their guns down to look around for anyone. The walkers start pushing the crate even more as they start to get through. Stu says they'll have to move in eventually since once those walkers get in, they're not going to be able to stay in those stores. They're going to have to, run out and go somewhere else. So they'll wait, and then that's when they'll start shooting. Tavia, Sandy, and Kyle are in the sunglass store as walkers pour in. Sandy says screw it and lets Kyle loose so they can have the extra help as the group fights off the walkers with their guns. Back in the bathroom, Luke, Jane, and Bonnie do the guts trick with a walker, and they start walking through the walkers in the hallways. Luke spots Calvin and Slater's group approaching the area from the second floor out of the entrance of the Dave & Buster's restaurant. He whispers to Jordan and Bonnie as the walkers notice they are humans and they start attacking them. They make a run for it through an office door leading into some office rooms of the mall as the killers open fire at them just as they get through. So these doors, they're like leading to like different hallways that are attached to the mall, and they're kind of like the offices, like where people who work at the mall go, like the server rooms, the generator, stuff like that, those type of rooms. Nick, Jane, and Lily come across the hallway on the second floor as they see Calvin, Slater, and the other killers in the distance. They get to cover as the killers notice them and start firing their guns. Slater tells them to conserve their ammo, as we see some of the killers slowly running out of ammo completely. They slowly push up as it becomes a shootout with Nick and company. Calvin and Slater find a map on the wall, and they decide to go through a door that should lead them downstairs to those office rooms that Luke entered into. Back in the main area, Trip, Sierra, and the red shirt fight off some walkers in the protein store. Kenny and Omid go out a bit to see what's happening as they see the walkers. Kenny notices the killers up above as he tells Omid to watch the kids and the others. Omid asks what the fuck he's doing, and Kenny says something stupid. Kenny goes up a staircase through the Macy's store, which leads all the way up to the roof. He gets to the roof and he sees all 20 or so of the killers lined up next to Stu. Kenny pulls out his AK-47 and opens fire at them, and he kills like 5 of them as a lot of the others are hit and they fall down through the ceiling and into the walkers. Some of them are eaten alive, but actually 2 of them don't die at all. They actually land on the 2nd floor and they're actually okay. Kenny runs back down the staircase and meets up with Omid. Everyone else in the stores all regroup into the main area of the mall, and they run into the Macy's store behind them as the walkers swarm them. They close the gate because they're kind of forced to avoid any walkers incoming. Kenny says he's got to get back to the kids, but Aaron's like, I don't think you'll be able to get through these walkers. So now Kenny, Omid, Aaron, Vince, Shell, Trip, Sandy, Sierra, Richard, the one red shirt, Tavia, Kyle, and Roman are all in the Macy's store. Clem peeks out of the changing room and sees all the walkers coming down the hallway. Those in the Macy's store get prepared as killers start coming through different doors into the Macy's. There are killers from the roof that are coming down. There's ones coming from the other doors, just they went like all the way around down a ladder. So it is a whole shootout that is ensuing in Macy's, and they're all protected behind countertops and such. The one red shirt from Trip's group is actually shot in the head right in front of Sierra. She gets pretty pissed off at this. Nick, Jane, and Lily get outnumbered as they make a run for the staircase leading to the offices downstairs. Luke, Jordan, and Bonnie are still walking through these office hallways, and it's almost like a damn maze. Luke is in what looks like to be in like an office room for the mall cops. Usually, like, they have like all the different like intercoms where they can see all around the mall. Obviously they're not on because there's no power, but he looks to the side and he sees a big fat mall cop come after him. Luke pulls out his machete, but the walker grabs him as he topples over a chair, but Jordan stabs the walker in the head with his knife pretty easily. 2 killers that were shot by Kenny but survived the fall into the mall are seen limping through the herd of walkers as they are covered in walker guts. So like everyone's doing the walker trick and the guts trick in this episode. They all pretty much know it. They sneak into the clothing store that Clem is in, and Clem sees them coming as she quickly closes the door. She grabs the M16 from the table that was left behind, and she tells, left behind specifically for Clem to use if she has to. She tells Dave and the others to stay quiet. Luke, Bonnie, and Jordan come across the killers in the hallway as they run out of ammo. Luke does as well, and the killers run out of ammo as well. So they're all out pretty much. Bonnie and Jordan says they've been out for a while. They try to make a run for the door in the hallway, like across from the intercom room that they were just in. But as Bonnie and Jordan go, they get shot at because apparently one of the killers actually does have some bullets left, and that splits them up, and Luke so has to find another door that he heads through, which leads him down another hallway. He only has his machete now because his AK is out of ammo, obviously. The shootout in Macy's continues as we see some of our group running out of ammo, and we see some of the killers running out of ammo. Trip sees a guy checking his gun for any bullets as he fires at him and kills him. Trip kills the guy. And Clem sneaks around the clothing store that she's in and gets behind the guys. She starts shooting at them with the M16, but the gun only had a few more bullets in them. They didn't even check how many bullets were in this damn thing. They just kind of gave it to Clem, hoping for the best. And that forces Clem to kill the one guy because there's 4 bullets. That 4 bullets, one of them hits the guy in the head, kills him. But the other guy, he didn't get hit. So he comes around, starts shooting at Clem with his handgun, but Clem gets the cover. The guy is injured though because he got shot in the leg from Kenny. But he runs out of ammo, and then he's forced to just attack Clem himself. Clem grabs a clothing stick, that stick that you use to help pick up clothes that's really high up, usually in clothing stores, and she smacks the guy in the face with it. But the guy throws his pistol at Clem, which hits her in the face, and that hurts her pretty badly. And then he grabs his stick and then grabs his stick out of her hand and then smacks her in the face with it. And then he gets ready to beat her down with that stick. but he is shot through the back 3 times by Sarah. Sarah is mortified. She has just killed her first person. Dave is close behind as they see walkers approaching them because of the recent gunshots. Clem helps everyone back into the changing room as walkers surround them. Clem tries to hold them back the best she can. Omid and Tavia are sneaking behind the makeup section of Macy's as they are both attacked by killers with knives. No ammo on any of them. Omid gets into a scuffle with them as Tavia tries to help. Trip, Sandy, and Sierra are together as Trip gets attacked by a big dude with a machete. Trip is about to get sliced by this dude with the machete as Sierra jumps at the guy and tackles him over, but this guy pushes Sierra off and then stabs her right through the stomach with the machete and lifts her up like goddamn Jason Voorhees lifting up some dude with the machete, and he slices her right through the stomach, pulls it out. Trip yells and attacks this guy because Sierra is dead. Sandy helps as well, but she gets backhanded in the face completely. Omid and Tavia are able to successfully kill the 2 killers that were attacking them with their knives. Calvin and Slater split up to cover more ground in the office rooms as Calvin is slowly walking down a hallway with his revolver. Luke suddenly comes from around the corner and grabs his revolver away and tries to swing at him with his machete, but he misses because Calvin ducks, and then they get into a very intense fight as the revolver is flown to the side. Luke tries to grab back his machete from the ground, but Calvin pulls a knife and starts swinging at Luke, knocking him into the wall, and he stabs the knife right at him, but he misses again. And Calvin is able to push off of Luke and then grab his revolver back, but Luke gets away just in time, and he runs for it down the hallway. Nick, Jane, and Lily reach the server room, like just a regular server room, and Slater is hiding in the shadows as he comes behind and knocks Lily out from behind with a hammer. He then goes after Nick and Jane, who fight back. Jane gets bitch thrown into a wall, and Nick tries to fight the best he can, taking all his anger out on Slater. Bonnie and Jordan find a door leading out into the mall section of the mall itself, like the main section, and Jordan questions if Luke made it out, but they don't know because they don't even know that Nick, Jane, and Lily are there. They just know that Luke's somewhere around here, but they assume maybe Luke got back to the others, so they kind of just walk around the main section of the mall. Back in the Macy's, Kenny, Aaron, Vince, and Shell are hiding behind a counter as they all run out of ammo. They peek over and see 4 killers, one of them being Stu, looking right at them, holding up their melee weapons. Stu says, "Go get them." They run at the group as they grab their own knives, and it turns into a full-on brawl. Shell gets stabbed in the shoulder as Kenny slams a dude into the glass table and then runs after Stu. Shell is saved by Vince though, so she's okay after that. Vince stabs the dude in the freaking temple. Stu makes a run forward as he decides to turn around and fight Kenny because he says, "Screw it, I'm not gonna run like a bitch." They get into a brawl on the floor as they look off into the walkers up against the gate next to the entrance of Macy's. Clem and Dave decide to do the guts trick. Clem says she can't just let her friends die. Clem tells Sarah that she has to stay here with Rebecca, the baby, and the other 2. The old woman is really confused, but they go along with it. Clem and Dave get all smothered up with the walker guts as they slowly go through. They close and open the door fast so they don't have to, so no walkers get through. And they walk right through the walkers and make it to the escalators, and they decide to go through the second floor of Macy's instead, since the first floor main entrance is obviously closed off by the gate. Jordan and Bonnie get swarmed by walkers in the middle section of the mall as they attempt to get back to the others, but they fight them off and they keep running. Nick and Jane continue to fight Slater. Slater grabs Jane, slams her into the wall again, but this time knocking Jane out. Nick and Slater's fight gets tossed into the hallway, and Luke slowly is walking down the hallway with nothing but a knife. He comes across 2 killers as they run at him. Luke is able to stab the one guy in the gut, punch the other one, and then stab the other one in the throat. He completely destroys these 2 guys. They're almost like noobs to him. Nick and Slater's fight gets brought into another server room across from the server room they were just in. Luke hears this fight happening as he goes in to help Nick, but Calvin comes from behind and goes to shoot Luke in the back of the head, but Luke sees the reflection in a TV and he sees Calvin behind him, so he quickly ducks to get to cover as Calvin continues to fire at him. Luke sneaks around some control panels and attacks Calvin, getting them into another scuffle in the same room as Nick and Slater. Lily wakes up as she finds Jane knocked out. She tries to help her out as two killers who happen to be females walk into the room and get ready to fight them, as Lily now has to fight these two girls off by herself. She kind of uses a chair to push them away, but they're trying to swing at her with their knives. Again, they don't have ammo left because everyone's running out of bullets because they've basically used up all the bullets that they could find at this point in time. Vince and Aaron continue fighting the killers as they successfully kill both of them, and this is of course where they were behind the counter with Shell before. Stu gets a knife and gets on top of Kenny and almost stabs him, but Clem stabs a machete straight through Stu's neck. She gets this machete from the ground. She just finds it because there's weapons everywhere at this point. Everyone's throwing stuff all over the place. And she pulls it out as Kenny pushes Stu off of him, and they both watch him bleed out. Kenny tells Clem that she should be back with the others, but Clem says they're going to be okay. Trip is helped out by Roman, Kyle, and Richard, who double-teamed the big guy that was attacking Trip and allowed Trip to run the machete straight through the guy's abdomen. Everyone looks around, noticing that they've killed all the killers in this area. At least they think. Tavia is jumping excitement that she's like they're finally done with these fuckers. As she turns around, and a killer that was hiding behind some clothing racks comes right up to Tavia and stabs a knife straight through her stomach and slices it straight up. Omid yells, "No!" and Tavia falls to the ground in slow motion as she's holding her stomach blood up, and you can tell she's not gonna make it. Omid runs after this guy, tackles him, and uses the back of his Glock that he still has but has no ammo, of course, to beat the guy's face in completely until he's just dead. Omid runs to check on Tavia. She's still breathing and able to talk, but she's bleeding out. She's probably gonna die. Omid says they need medical equipment or something. They need Bonnie. The group all come over, most of them beaten up or injured, and Tavia tells Omid that he will find Krista. She has hope. She smiles for him, just as she dies right there. Jordan and Bonnie are seen fighting some of the walkers as they get up to the second floor. They wonder what the fuck happened. The fighting in the server room continues. Lily is still being attacked by these two girls as Jane wakes up and then jumps over to help the fight because she notices Lily's in trouble, but she's like really woozy. She's really tired out because she's like nearly dead, of course. So the only killers left are these two girls and Calvin and Slater, so the rest of the place is pretty much cleared out at this point. But Lily and Jane are getting pretty beat up by these guys, and or by these girls, and it's kind of rough. Slater gets Nick on the floor as he is ready to kill Nick with the machete, but Luke is able to grab the revolver from the floor as he is fighting Calvin and use the last bullet in the revolver to shoot Slater in the stomach, giving Nick the chance to grab the machete out of his hand and slice Slater in the side of the neck. Then he lets Slater fall to the ground as he starts slicing his head clean off with 3 more hits to the neck, and then he just starts slicing his dead body with it, taking out all his anger. Luke is suddenly stabbed in the stomach by Calvin. Nick sees this and charges at Calvin as Luke falls to the ground. Luke lays there about to pass out as he sees Nick getting into a scuffle with Calvin. He's basically getting his ass kicked. Nick tries to hold his own, but he can't. He's losing. Luke is slowly starting to pull the knife out of his stomach. It's in the hip, so it didn't really hit any major organs, but it still hurts him a lot. He tries to pull it out slowly, but it's stuck. He keeps trying as Calvin gets on top of Nick and continues to punch him in the face. Luke is just pulling, and blood is pouring out, and it's kind of reminiscent of Modern Warfare 2's ending, if you guys remember that. I'm basing this completely off of that scene where Soap was pulling out the knife when Price was getting his act kicked by Shepard. I'm not copying it word for word, but I'm pretty much, I really love that scene. I really think it'd be cool to kind of, do something similar to that. So he's pulling it out as Nick's getting his ass kicked, and he finally successfully pulls the knife out, and he tries to get up to walk towards Calvin. He's like toppling over a little bit because he's bleeding out. He then takes the knife, stabs it right in the side of Calvin's neck, and Luke falls over as he loses a lot of blood, and Calvin's neck is just gushing blood as he falls over, dead. Lily and Jane continue fighting off the two girls as Lily just snaps one of the girls' neck, and then she runs over to the one that's fighting Jane. She takes the girl's face, smashes it into the wall, and just smashes her face in multiple times into the wall, killing her completely. Jane is surprised by Lily's rage just then. They go to check on the others as they see what has happened, and they help Luke and Nick get up. They notice that they both need medical attention now. They help them out of the place as they see Bonnie and Jordan, so Bonnie and Jordan quickly run over to help them up the escalators to the second floor so they can get some of the medical equipment from the armory, which doesn't have much more ammo, but Jordan actually finds some ammo hidden behind a counter that they just didn't find before. The group in the Macy's realize that they will have to fight off these walkers right outside. They accept to doing this as they look off into the crowd of walkers as Aaron opens the gate, and the group use their melee weapons to kill as many as possible while using countertops as protection. It's a badass montage of them just killing walkers. The walkers even move away from the changing rooms as they hear more stuff coming from the Macy's area. So Sarah and the caretaker named Marla, the caretaker there has always been named Marla, I just didn't really think the name was that important, but I'm giving her a name now. And she's an older, not really older, like 40 years old Spanish woman, and she's been taking care of that old woman whose name is Rose, and she's helping Sarah fight off walkers now because screw it, right? Rebecca tries to keep the baby from crying. The baby cries a little bit, bringing some walkers towards the changing room, but thankfully Jordan and Lily come to help, and they shoot up the walkers as Jane and Bonnie are busy helping Luke and Nick stay alive. Jordan and Lily also help kill the walkers near Macy's with the remaining ammo they found in the armory. Richard is almost bitten, but Aaron saves his life. The group finally finish off all the walkers as we get a badass shot showing our group standing amongst the dead bodies in the mall. Everyone reunites together in the armory upstairs. Tripp is completely depressed that he lost so much. Sandy comforts him. Omid's a bit depressed as well. Kenny's looking off into the distance out a window and sees that the mega herd is still partially outside. Only some of it has actually came inside. He says there's likely a gap somewhere that they can run through and get to the highway and leave, and Shell asks what the hell they're going to do from here. They have barely any weapons or food, and Kenny says they've headed for Wellington. Some of the group questions how the hell they will go on such a journey without much since it's so far away. Kenny says maybe there's stuff left over at the killer's base that they can raid. Aaron says there could be some stuff there, yeah, I guess. Vince says there could be people there, though, and hell, there could be people here too. They don't know. And Clem says they'll find something on the way to Wellington. There's no way they won't. And Jordan questions if that's worth the risk. He says there's no way they took everything with them, so there probably is some stuff left over at the killer's base. Aaron says in terms of ammo, I really doubt they have much considering they ran out of ammo just as fast as we did. Chances are they don't have much back there anyways. Roman asks what about the helicopters, and Vince asks if anyone here knows how to fly a goddamn helicopter, and Roman kind of gives them a look, meaning yeah, Roman knows how to fly a helicopter, apparently. As they all end up watching Roman attempt to fly it, he gets in. He says he's had a few years of training back in the day, but that's enough to at least get this thing rolling. Roman says he can fit maybe 10 people at most in here. It's just too dangerous to be flying it around everywhere. Things can go wrong easily, so it's not really a good idea to take this far. But just to get to the killer's base quickly to return, they can do that for now. He says the other helicopter is completely out of fuel, and this one's low on fuel as well, but the other one, the engines are completely failed, so they're better off taking the one that's pretty low on fuel but still is running. And so Vince, Shell, Aaron, and Jordan go along with him in the helicopter. Those who stay at the mall kind of hang around. Nick finally wakes up. He's okay, but his face is really messed up, and Luke also wakes up with a massive pain in his side. Bonnie finally gets a moment of peace as she looks around and asks Omid where Tavia is. She notices what happened just by looking at his face when he kind of gives her that look. She's kind of upset, but doesn't really show it outward. The helicopter makes it to the killer's base, and the group looted of anything left, but it ain't much left. Just some food, medicine, a few guns with barely any bullets. They don't have much. They do take a lot of the armor and like gear that they had there, because that might come in handy later on. They leave as Shell gives the place the finger and yells, "Good fucking riddance." The group return to the mall as the helicopter engines start to fail, and he's like, holy shit, wait, these engines were actually kind of failing as well, so they probably shouldn't have been flying now in the first place, but oh well, they got back safely, that's all that matters. Everyone packs up their things, ready to go. Vince notices a gap through an exit that allows them back onto the highway safe and sound because the walkers are pretty far away from this little gap, so they'll be okay. The group start running down as some walkers start to close in, but just in case, Vince is there to make sure they're all right. He stays a little bit behind to just make sure there's no walkers nearby, there's none hiding behind any cars. They all get to the highway safely, and they just start to walk off down the highway with bags full of supplies. Clem looks back at them all for one final shot as Kenny tells her to get a move on. Some nice music plays as the group walks off down the road on the highway, and they come across a sign that says, "Now entering Virginia." So, yes, that is the Season 3 finale. That is it. Like I said, let me know your 5 favorite episodes of the series. If you want to give me your 10 favorite, that'd be great as well. I don't really care. Whatever you want to give me. 5 favorite characters, 10 favorite characters, whatever you want, I'm interested in knowing. So, I want to end this off by mentioning the whole point of the Killer's arc because, it was something completely new, something that wasn't in the game, and it took a long time. I mean, it was like a season and a half worth, not season and a half, like half season and a half worth of content. The reason why I did it is because if I ended off after episode 5 without the Killers, right, I just had them escape Carver's camp and then go out on the road, and then their next goal is to get to Wellington, right? That's their next goal, is to head down the road. There would be no reason for these people to stay together, right? I needed a reason to get these people to care about each other because previously, a lot of them barely knew each other. A lot of them just met each other at Carver's camp. Chances are they would go out on their own and just leave. They wouldn't come together and go to Wellington together as a group because not all of them even wanted to go to Wellington. Not all of them believed in it. They want to go to Wellington, of course, because they know that it could have, they could be letting people in now, even though the sign said, "We're done." Again, there could be someone there. And Omid, of course, just wants to see if Chris is nearby. And they just want to see what it's all about, see if they could possibly get a way to get into Wellington itself. I needed that. I needed something to get this group together so when season 4 comes around, they're a family. I don't want this group to be like split up and like everyone kind of hates each other and just doesn't want. I needed them to start caring about each other. So when season 4 comes around, them sticking together as a group makes sense and it fits and it works and it feels genuine and organic. And that's why I did this season. A whole war that they spent time together to do, and I made sure there was reasons for why they all stuck around in the war. They didn't just leave, like Trip. If I didn't kill any Trip's, people off, why would he stay? He would be like, "Screw you guys, I'm not taking part in your war," right? But he did because so many of his people were killed. So he kind of just had to, He felt like he was necessary, a thing for him. And a lot of the other people feel the same way. And they started to, kind of get bonds with certain people. They started to build these relationships. And that's important to me because that's going to be important for season 4 since this group is going to be on the road for a while. So just a little tease for season 4 before I get into, doing season 4. I do want to say it's going to be much darker. It's a much smaller scaled season. There's not going to be like too much battles or wars. There's a lot in this season. It's going to be more character driven. Going to be a lot of like just deep character shit going on. And it's going to be this main group of 22 people. So the people who are left right now going into season 4, 22 people. We got Kenny, Omid, Clementine, Sarah, Dave, Rebecca, Aaron, Vince, Shell, Roman, Trip, Sandy, Richard, Rose, Marla, Kyle, Luke, Jordan, Bonnie, Jane, Nick, and Lily. So that is a big ass group going into season 4. And it's going to be roughly a little bit less than a year time skip. So from this episode to season 4, about 10 months of a time skip. So right here in the story, it's roughly like January. That's like the time period they're in, kind of like January to February. It's going to be about 10 months later. So like November or December of around Christmas time of the next year. So basically almost a year time skip, a little bit less than a year. That's the time skip that we're doing going into season 4 because season 3